Actors, we've all got issues, so let's talk about them. I'm Juan Ayala, and welcome to Actors with Issues. Each week, we bring you interviews with actors from across TV, film, and Broadway, taking many deep dives into their careers and getting into the successes, the struggles, and of course, the issues that they face as actors. That's enough about us. Let's dive into the episode. Today's guest is an actress you've seen in Broadchurch, Dynasty on the CW, which is currently in its final season, and on Netflix's upcoming dark comedy, Do Revenge. Please welcome to the stage, Eliza Bennett. Eliza, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So before we dive in, we always start with a quick game called Getting to Know You. So just throw some rapid fire questions your way. We start with an easy one. Coffee or tea?
Coffee now, which I can't believe I'm saying that because I'm English, but yeah, coffee.
Film or television?
Television.
Drama or comedy?
Comedy.
Hero or villain?
Hero.
New York or LA?
LA.
Stage acting or screen acting?
Probably screen acting.
What actors had the biggest influence on you?
Oh gosh. Probably Natalie Portman when I was younger, just because she was a child actor and so was I, and so I kind of watched her in awe.
What was your first non-acting job?
I was a Christmas temp, like a sales assistant at Reese, which is a clothing store in England.
I feel like every actor's worked retail in some way, shape, or form. What is the last show that you binge watched?
What was the last one I fit? Oh, Stranger Things.
What movie never fails to make you laugh?
It's meant to be rapid, but I'm not giving you these answers very rapidly. What film never fails to make me laugh? Best in Show, which is niche.
And what movie never fails to make you cry?
God. I mean, The Notebook every time, but that's like a very generic answer.
It's a good choice though. And lastly, describe your most memorable audition in 3 words, and memorable can be good or bad, so that I leave up to you.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I have to do 3 words.
3 words or small phrases.
I went bright red. That's probably the 3 words.
Oh.
It was a bad one, as you can tell.
I can imagine. So, Eliza, you are an actress, a singer, a songwriter. You have so many different things coming up. You have an EP, you have a new film on Netflix. Dynasty, as we said, is in its final season. But I do want to go back a bit to sort of the early days of your career. So, as you said, you were a child actor. You got started rather early. So, with that sort of path and journey you've been on, what have you noticed has changed the most in the entertainment industry since you were a kid?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I'd like to say I was fortunate enough to grow up without really any social media. So I was a child actor in the time where, like, I think when I was 16, I got Facebook, but that was like it. So obviously now social media feels like half of everyone's life, which is insane. And I think the biggest battle often of being like an artist or someone that's trying to be more in the public eye is trying to have a healthy relationship with social media. That's been incredibly difficult. And the age of television is huge now. That wasn't there when I was growing up. I mainly did film, but even TV, like in the UK, we had 5 channels. So there's only so many TV shows that can be put on at that time. So the amount of content that there is right now is massive. So it feels like there should be more jobs, even though sometimes it doesn't feel like there is enough jobs for everyone to go around. But yeah, the amount of content is humongous now.
Mm-hmm. It's funny, with as much work and platforms as there are now, there's also, like, I feel like historically the most actors because of things like social media.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be an actor, everyone wants to be famous, and the sort of saturating a market that used to be a lot.
Like in auditions, there used to like only be a small pool of people that were actually getting auditions, and now with self tapes and being able to send your auditions in, it means that they're auditioning thousands now instead of tens, which is what, when I was going up for things when I was younger, there was like 30 of us, like max, like that were kind of going up for those things. And so now they can choose from the whole world now.
Mm.
So yeah, it does. There's more jobs, but it does feel like there's massively more actors. So
Yeah. And firstly, I wanted to say congrats on a fantastic run of Dynasty. Over 100 episodes by the end of its run, 5 seasons. That's like not a thing anymore. I feel like seasons are so brief now on streaming, especially. It's like 8 to 12 episodes. Limited series a lot as well. They'll adapt the book, so they don't really do these longer arc stories anymore. So it's been a very long time since we've seen a show reach 100 episodes. I feel it's been a couple of years. So how are you feeling going? I know you guys wrapped production some time ago, but how does it feel to be sort of wrapping up this story?
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I think it's extraordinary they've done 100 and however many episodes. I obviously have just done the last season and a half, so I don't really feel like I can take much responsibility for the success. But yeah, it's insane. It's very emotional saying goodbye to something that people have worked on for 5 years. A lot of the crew have been the same crew for all that time. So it is a huge accomplishment. Like, you're right, shows don't make it that long anymore. And especially coming from England, shows are normally like 6 to 8 episodes max. So
Yeah.
it's been insane to be a part of something that's so big and has such sort of a history and a fan base. So it's been honestly an honor for me to even be a small part of the show.
Mm. And given that we first met your character in season 4, there was, like you said, this fan base that already existed from the original Dynasty. So did you feel any particular pressure taking on Amanda, given she was such a known character in that first iteration of the show?
Yeah, I did. Like, I watched like clips from the original, and she's like so beautiful. I think Catherine Oxenberg, who plays the original one, she's incredible. And so yeah, I did feel a little bit of pressure, but like, you have to kind of let all of that go. And when you sign on to a show, you never really know what they're gonna do with your character or how they're gonna write it. And so, I'm really figuring it out day by day, episode by episode that I read. So that was definitely like daunting. I felt like I was really thrown in the deep end, and I think it took me a second to sort of find my feet with Amanda. But then once I sort of got there, I feel like something clicked and I like found her, which is great. But yeah, I honestly, I got cast, and then 4 days later I was on set, so there wasn't much time to think about it.
Yeah. Oh gosh. And I'm curious if you can remember how you felt on your very first day during season 4, and how different it was compared to your last day on the show.
Yeah, I was very nervous on my first day, and it was my first job back from COVID. So it was my first job ever with all the sort of COVID everything in, the masks, the barriers, all the split departments, which it's really hard to feel like you have a cohesive like cast and crew when everyone's split by departments and no one's allowed to talk to each other. So it was honestly a really nerve-wracking first day, because you're put in like a box and like no one can really talk to you, and even with the other cast, like they're behind barriers. And so I was very like overwhelmed, and you're hoping that everyone's like, oh, she's great, rather than why did they cast her? So you've got all these insecurities that always go around your head on the first day. And then by the last day, I was, I loved everyone. I had a great relationship with everyone. And yeah, it's crazy to think where I came from the beginning to the end of the show, but it was a crazy journey. I mean, Dynasty's a crazy show.
And with Do Revenge, which is another project you have coming up with Netflix, it's this twisted comedy. It's sort of an ode to those classic teen movies of the 90s with like Jawbreaker and Heathers before that and all of that. So what was your experience working on that film, and what are you most looking forward to for audiences to see?
So Do Revenge was kind of a surprise to me. My Jennifer Caton Robinson, who wrote and directed it, and Celeste Ballard, who also wrote it. Jen was the creator of a TV show I did called Sweet Vicious, and Celeste was one of the writers on that television show. So I had read the script prior because she sent it to me, and I was like, oh, this is incredible. And I was shooting Dynasty, and anything honestly Jen writes is always iconic. Like, she really is, I think, like a voice of our generation, and I just think she's going to go on from strength to strength. So I knew the movie was going to be incredible, but I was shooting Dynasty, and then she like texted me because they were shooting the show in Atlanta, And she was like, will you come and like do this like part on Do Revenge like for me? She was like, I can't like, she was like, I just want someone I trust and that I know will be able to do it, to just like come. And so I did it on the weekends off from like I did it on the weekend I wasn't working on Dynasty. And it was incredible. I mean, I got to like do all my stuff with Sophie Turner, who was like so lovely, and like everything. They say don't meet like people that you're in awe of, and she like was incredible and so nice. So that was, you know, nice to meet her. And yeah, the movie is like, it's an old school like teen revenge comedy drama. It's like everything I wanted to watch when I was younger and still
Mhm.
do now. So I think people are going to love it. I'm really excited to see people's responses.
And I also wanted to mention your EP, which is set to come out very soon, correct? Do you have a release date for
Yeah,
that
my
yet?
first single just came out, Hate to Love You, and then the next song will come out at the end of September.
So when did you first get involved in singing, songwriting? Did that come before acting, or did you discover that love for that a little bit later?
My first job ever was a West End musical when I was 9. So I did Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and I played
Mm.
Jemima, and so singing was always sort of like intertwined with my job. But I think growing up in England, there's kind of this mentality that I don't think there is anymore, but when I grew up, that you kind of have to pick one lane and stick to it. And
Mm.
so my acting kind of took off as a kid. And so I was like, oh, I'm an actress and I just also sing sometimes. And then when I moved to LA in my early 20s, I kind of saw like that multiple people did multiple things and it was kind of encouraged. And so I kind of dipped my toe in songwriting. And then it just built over time. I think I wrote more and more. And then I'd meet a producer and he liked my music and he was like, I want to produce you. And it kind of happened honestly just from me putting myself out there, which was like very scary of just like playing my music to people or doing a gig. And I was very nervous about it. But yeah, now it's ended up sort of creating this EP that I'm really proud of songs I've kind of written over the last decade about my late 20s. Um, and so, yeah, and so it kind of just came about organically. And during COVID, when I couldn't work in acting, it was, kind of saved me because I was able to really buckle down on this instead. So yeah, I'm nervous now because it's coming out, but no, I'm excited.
It's interesting having done so many. So our show started during the pandemic. We launched our podcast in May
Oh wow.
2020. So many conversations folks have mentioned discovering new passions or rediscovering things that they used to do to sort of help them creatively during the pandemic. And it's,
Yeah.
such a common uh, thread of conversation because it
Yeah, I
really
think there's
was.
like a beautiful silver lining, isn't it, that some of this like work has come out of this time. And I think with acting, like I've always been employed by someone, and I love that. I love being told like this is the job you're doing, this is where you have to be, and this is like your part in this incredible machine. And I think in COVID, a lot of the things that artists explored was doing things really off your own back, and then having to kind of put like something vulnerable out there that you just like did all by yourself, and now you're asking other people to listen to it or listen to your podcast or something, and that's like really scary, and something I was definitely afraid of for a long time. And then I think you just get to a point where you go, well, if they don't like it, then that's fine too, and the people that will like it will find you.
And with
Yeah.
having done so much between comedies, dramas, music, singing, film, television, is there anything on your bucket list that you haven't checked off yet that you hope to get to?
I haven't done like a straight play. Like I would really like to do a play in either New York or London. I've done musical theatre in London before, but I would love to do a play. I feel like it's kind of the original art form of acting, and so I that's definitely on my bucket list. I would be very frightened, but I would be excited to do it.
And are you more interested in doing a new work, an original, or sort of a remounting of a classic like Tennessee Williams, Arthur Miller, Shakespeare?
Wow. I have no idea. I don't know actually. I think it's so exciting to do something new. I like you have this responsibility of sort of creating the role from scratch for the first time for people's eyes. And when I went back and did musical theatre and when I was 21, it was a brand new musical, and I loved that
Mm.
aspect of it. But yeah, I mean, I would honestly be really, really open to both. We'll just put that out there.
Maybe
Maybe
see what
someone will
comes
hear
back.
me. Exactly.
And with the name of our show being Actors with Issues, we always like to shed some light on some of the day-to-day issues and obstacles that actors face. So what comes to mind as something that you know now about acting or the entertainment industry that you wish you'd learned earlier on in your career?
Oh, that's a tough one. Sometimes after you get cast in a project, you become a little bit a part of the casting process. And if you have to do chemistry reads with other actors, and it did really open my eyes every time I've had that experience to how like little to do with you as an actor it is, whether you're right for the role. I think you have to be like, you have to come in with choices and you have to be brave and you have to come in with talent and know what you're doing and be prepared. But there is like this a very small percent that you are actually exactly what they envisioned for this role, and that has nothing to do with you at all. So once you kind of let go of that and just use auditions as acting sort of exercises, then and make sure you're prepared and all the above, but then you can kind of let go of like, well, I thought my audition was really good, so what, they just don't think I'm good, and which I did for such a long time. You start to view it as rejection, and I really don't view it as rejection anymore. I think you do your work, you show it to them as an exercise, and then there's like this magic percentage where you happen to look and be the right age and match with the family, and all of that is out of your hands.
Right.
And so it's really, as long as you're doing your job and you're not getting you're not getting rejected because you genuinely didn't turn up prepared, then the rest is so nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
And so I have sort of I would watch auditions and I'd be like, oh, every single person is so good. And then it would literally, I'd listen to casting talk about it with the producers, and it would literally come down to the fact like, right, but the other guy would cast as brunette, and I always just thought that this guy should be tall, and it was just nothing to do with their performances. Mm-hmm. So I just I think that like helped me just like let go of it feeling personal, because it really isn't personal.
Yeah, I feel like that's been such a common thread on our show as well. Because
really?
I'm an actor as well as a podcaster, oh, cool. and journalist and all that. So having spoken with lots of young actors, they feel like, oh, I have to change my look to look more like what is in right now. I have to do this and that. And it's like, you know, the roles rarely go to the best actor. It's the best fit, which is a number of sort of criteria. Right. Like you said, it's like they're too tall, they're too short, they don't look like the dad we cast already, and all these different things. But yeah, I feel like
I think
young
you
actors have to come to terms with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you have to be brave. For a long time, I don't think I was being particularly brave in my auditions. So I definitely tried to be braver now. But yeah, if you can make a brave choice and someone can watch it and be like, oh, that is not what we pictured. But then there's a magic moment where you make a brave choice and it's exactly what they pictured. And then that's where, you know, you end up sort of doing the perfect roles for you. But it's brutal. Unemployment is brutal. It's the hardest part. It was the hardest part for me. And it will be after, you know, I'm not going to be employed forever. So I have just huge empathy. Resilience is so key in this business. And I just have every, you know, it's very, very difficult to be continually unemployed, which I have been for large periods of time. So I have a lot of sympathy for people going through that stage.
So before we go, we always wrap up with a non-rapid fire game called Now That We Know You, since we've gotten to chat for a bit.
Okay.
So fill in the blank. If I weren't working in the arts, I'd be?
I think I'd be an interior designer. I love homes and I love decorating.
Mm-hmm. What role have you had the most fun playing?
Probably Jules in Sweet Vicious, because I got to play a sorority girl by day and a vigilante by night, which was incredible.
What is the best advice you've ever gotten?
I'm going to butcher this quote, but it's by Mark Twain, but it's something like, never argue with a fool because onlookers won't be able to tell the difference. Like it's something like that. Or like, don't argue with a fool because they'll drag you down to their level and beat you with experience. Basically, just don't have an argument with someone who's very, very ignorant.
And what's the worst advice you've ever gotten?
My worst advice. To never tweeze my eyebrows. and to over tweeze my eyebrows. There's a perfect sweet spot.
Just when you think just a little more. No, stop.
I know when I was a kid,
Resist.
everyone's scared of you changing. So when I was a kid, everyone was like, never touch your eyebrows. But then they got like crazy. And then I like over tweezed them. And anyway, now thank goodness there's a happy medium where the natural eyebrow is in, thank goodness.
Yeah. And lastly, in 10 words or less, what advice would you give to a young actor?
Oh gosh. Work out what you're good at and don't be scared to run with that. Like don't try and change your forte because someone else is good at it. Just find what you're good at.
Awesome. Well, Eliza, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us and for being on the show today. Social media, Instagram, where can our lovely fans find you? They want to give you a follow.
Yep, Instagram. I recently started a TikTok. Not sure how that's going, but yeah, Instagram is mainly where I'm at.
And folks, you know the drill. You can find us on Instagram at Actors with Issues. Give me a follow at Juaniala Official, and you can see more of our show on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts every Monday with bonus episodes on Thursdays. Dynasty airs Fridays on the CW at 9 p.m. Eastern, and Do Revenge premieres September 16th on Netflix. I'm Juaniala. This is Actors with Issues, and we'll see you next week.